Hi, and welcome to our last episode of the day. This will be a shorter one than the earlier one. So I think we're probably about, all up today. I've done about 2.5 hours of videos. Hope they've gone okay for you. Forgive me for my, I mean, I do get passionate about the topics. And, they go to my heart. I hope they go to your heart as well. So I finished the last one, episode 4, by asking a question. So God visits the planet in the person of Jesus. And what was one of the first things that Jesus did? I mean, especially when he embarked on his, if you like, his ministry at about the age of 30. So what was one of the first things? Well, actually, we're told in John's Gospel, he did a sleepover. Absolutely. He was approached, and I'll read it out to you. The two disciples heard him say this, and they followed Jesus. Jesus turned and saw them following him. And what do you want? He asked. Rabbi, they said, where are you staying? Come and see, he replied. So they came and saw where he was staying and stayed with him that day. It was late in the afternoon. So Jesus was, into sleepovers. He had these people come and stay with him. And we're also told that this crazy God, this Jesus, he selected people to be his followers. He asked people to become his disciples. And so he's doing this thing again of walking towards whoever and not giving up on the human project, and he wants to do life with people. So he invites a number of people to be his disciples. And I've got a list here, and pointing the 12, he named Simon Peter, and then there's James and his brother John, and then there was Andrew and Philip and Matthew and Thomas, and so forth and so on. And by the way, recent biblical scholarship is supporting the view that there was this band of, 12 male disciples, but there was also a band of female disciples. And there's a lady by the name of Junia in Romans 16, and she is numbered with the apostles. So in a sense, what Jesus did was he created this band and this band. It's just brilliant. And at times they travelled like this, and at times they travelled like this. But it's not just males. There was also a female band of disciples. Okay, but here's the interesting thing. What do you think the average age of a disciple was? I mean, most people these days have this idea that, if Jesus was wanting to pick, those that would follow him and those that would lead the movement after his resurrection, who would he choose? Surely he would choose, mature, older people. No, this crazy God. The average age of Jesus's disciples were around the 13 to 15 age group. That is brilliant. That is just a few years older than you. In other words, they say that Peter was arguably the oldest, around about 17, and John was arguably the youngest. But if Peter was about 17, and what Jesus does, it's crazy. What Jesus does, the future of this movement to create order where there is disorder, the future belongs to a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old. I don't know who's the oldest and who's the youngest in intermission this year. But in a sense, Jesus would come to you and say, he would say, it's not that you are the future leaders. He would say, you are the present leaders. You are the present leaders. In other words, Jesus sees leadership in each and every one of you. You're his image bearers. You're to be these people that go to even the Jeffrey Dahmers of this world, the Brenton Tarrants. You are to be the people who never give up on whoever is in front of you. You are to be the people who never give up on neighbourhoods. You are the people who are to never give up on that person that has done the most despicable, deplorable thing. And Jesus is not saying, oh, you'll be that, that mature person. No, he comes to you now and says, you are my present, you are my now leaders, not future leaders. You are my now leaders. I think it's just insane that Jesus went for those that were on average about 15, just a few years older. I mean, you yourselves, just a few years older. So you are the now leaders, intermissionists. That's why I started intermission. I thought, I mean, Jesus believed in your age group. I believe in your age group. Not as future possibilities, but as now realities. And that's what Jesus did. And, one of the disciples, I've already mentioned him, Peter. I mean, after having been with Jesus for 3 years, he's whacking people's ears off. I don't know if you've read the passage. It's in John chapter 18. I think I've got it on my thing. I'll just go into small. Here it is. In John 18, verse 4 to 11. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, this is the soldiers that came to arrest him. Who is it you want? Jesus of Nazareth, they replied. I am he, Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. And when Jesus said, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, who is it you want? Jesus of Nazareth, they said. And Jesus answered, I told you that I am he. If you are looking for me, then let these others go. This happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled. I have not lost one of those you gave me. Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. Jesus commanded Peter, put your sword away. And in another rendition of this, in another one of the Gospels, Jesus picks up the ear off the ground and puts it back and heals the man. And the point I'm trying to make, though, is that, sometimes when I say, hey, teenagers, hey, young adults, you are the now leaders, sometimes I get the response back of, oh, but if only you knew who I am or what I'm like, Jesus would not pick me as a now leader. Well, he picked Peter. And, Peter had been in Jesus' company for 3 years. And still, after 3 years, he's well, if you whack people's ears off, that's dysfunction. That's despicable. That's deplorable. That's pretty insane. That's pretty bad. You can just imagine Peter at that time saying to Malchus, hey, look, I'm sorry, this guy Peter, I've been trying to train him up and teach him and change him, for these last 3 years, but I haven't done a very good job of it, have I? You can imagine this guy actually he goes home and his wife says to him, how did your day at work go? And he says, well, you won't believe this, but someone whacked my ear off. And then what is even stranger, the guy that I went to arrest, he picked my ear up off the ground and stuck it back on my head again. I mean, this is crazy. It's so good. I better keep moving on. So the point I'm just trying to make here is that, look, you may do something pretty bad and despicable and deplorable and so forth and so on. And you may think at that point that Jesus, gives up on you. He gives up on you because of your age. That's what some people think, Well, I'm only, 17. No. You are the right age. You are a now leader. And even if in the near future, you do something despicable like Peter did. Jesus came back to Peter. And we read this in John chapter 21. Came back to Peter. Send him out again. You are my image bearer. You go out. And go out to places that you don't want to go. It actually says that in John 21. In other words, go to people and places of disorder to create order. And Peter lived his life that way. So to wrap this up, I'll never forget. I was flying in and out of Christchurch many years ago, and on this particular trip, just before I went to the airport, I went to a Christian bookstore, and the manager saw me and said, "Oh, Mick, I've got the very book for you." And he gave me this book. It was just a little book, and I read it on the flight back home, and just an amazing story. So I was speaking at Mystery Creek, many years ago at, Easter camp. And I told the story. And I said, there was this person and he had to do you probably heard this story, but he had to do a school assignment on contemporary slave issues. And so he went to his mum and said, "Oh, Mum, I've got to do this assignment, And she said, "Well, let's go to Dr. Google." And they came up with all these stats, like there are still millions and millions of people who are in slavery, be it bonded labour, be it sex trafficking, whatever, but countless people and still in slavery today. And he chanced upon the story of a 6-year-old girl. And at age 3, this little girl had been sold to a factory by her alcoholic father. This was in India. And her job in this factory was to butt the end of, 2,000 cigarettes, because that's what they made in the factory. And if she got behind in terms of the count, the supervisor would come around with a bit of 2x4, a big stick, and whack her fingers. And so the age of 6, she had twisted, distorted, fingers, just all out of joint as it were. And he read with horror that she got paid 25 cents a week, and that money went to her father. And, his heart broke as he read this story. He was a Christian guy, and he went into his room and he just started to talk to God about, contemporary slave issues. And as he was in prayer talking to this crazy God, this God gave this person an idea, And so he thought, well, how much loose change have I got? And he searched through the house and came up. And then the idea was that he'd go to all the neighbours on the street and say, have you got any loose change? A coin here, a coin there that's hanging around, And he gathered up as much loose change that he could. And then some local media outlet heard that he was doing this and came to him and said, we believe you're gathering up loose change to help people in contemporary slavery. And he said, yes, that's right. Well, it went through the whole country what he was doing. And before, after a while, people all over the place were sending their loose change, such that he had to then form a kind of a charitable trust, and he called it to loosen the chains. So loose change to loosen the chains. And I told the story at Mystery Creek at this Easter camp, and the other guest speaker at that conference was an American, you see. And so I was telling the story, and I finished that particular talk, and I got off the stage, and he came up to me and he said, Mackie said, I know that person that you've just told about. I know him. I've met him. Now, when I was telling all the Mystery Creekites, I finished the story in my talk by saying, oh, and by the way, his age, he was 14 when he did this stuff. He was 14 when he did the loose change to loosen the chains. And you could have heard a kind of a audible gasp from, I think it was about 5,000 people or something. And then, so I got off, as I said, got off the platform, and this American came up to me and he said, oh yeah, I know him. Yeah. By the way, you got one fact wrong in your retelling of his story. He wasn't 14. He was 12 when that happened. He was 12. And his name is Zach Hunter. You've probably heard of him. 12. Where there is disorder, you walk towards it. That's what he did. He walked towards contemporary slave issues. And he gathered up all the loose change, millions and millions of dollars, and created this charitable trust called Loosen the Chains. And he was 12. And the average age of Jesus' disciples was anything between 13 and 15. That's why I say into missioners, you are the now people. You are the image bearers. And this God will never give up on you, will continually reach out to you no matter what you've done. And then what this God asks of you is that you do likewise. And you walk towards whoever, no matter what they've done, wherever. Such that people will become beautiful people and they will flourish. Such that neighbourhoods will become better places for people to live in and they'll flourish. So that's how we start. Genesis, Judges, Jesus, you, even at your age. I hope you have enjoyed day one. You can see that probably in the screen it's getting a bit darker now. So actually, my neighbour that way, they've asked for Ruby and I to go over and have a chat. And we know what they want to chat about. God. They're not Christians. They're not. But they've signalled to us that they would like to have a chat about this crazy, amazing God. So I got to go. I'll let you know how it goes. Our God, we thank you for day one, but more importantly, we thank you for who you are. Thank you in creation and in Judges and in Jesus. We get to see who you are, and we also get to discover who we can be. And enable us to live this life, I pray, in your wonderful name. Amen. Catch ya.